Hi everyone, I'm Crystal and I host the podcast Alternative Interests with my best friend Elle. We're Washington natives that love true crime, the supernatural, and all things weird, dark, and spooky. Join us every week as we take turns sharing our own twists on the garbage humans that commit crimes, or a paranormal story that we have been obsessing over. Whatever topic we cover, this show is sure to capture all of your alternative interests. Check us out on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, or wherever you listen to podcasts.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Files Obscura. Today, we are joined again, as always, by Vlad. Hello. Cece.
Hiya.
And an old friend of ours named Nathan.
What's up?
Yeah. Nathan was on a previous episode a while back. I'm going to be honest, I cannot remember which episode off the top of my head, but he's got some personal things he was doing, but he said he's ready to join us again. And I can't wait to dig into today's episode where I decided, we're going to take a little departure from what we normally cover, and look into some declassified military documents. So I decided, there's all kinds of fun things to look into. Let's get a little more grounded. Let's get a little more Cold War conspiracy. So I found something amazing called, it's a code name called Broken Arrow. Now, have any of you guys ever heard that term before?
No.
Okay. Well, we're going to be looking into the history of our nuclear age, how it started a bit, and all the mishaps that happened along the way that made us give the designation Broken Arrow. But as always, we play two truths and a lie. So let's go ahead and get started with some of these little facts. All right. First statement. The first patent for a nuclear bomb was made before the discovery of nuclear fission. Yeah, think about that one for a second.
That sounds like it's not true, but it could also be true.
Yeah.
That's how it goes. Like my brain tells me it's not true, but I'm also like, okay, but I've done this before. I know how it usually goes.
You know how I do this.
Yeah.
What says you, Nathan? What do you think? What's your thoughts on this one?
I think it makes sense. I think if someone wanted to jump the gun on, being the first one to patent something like that, but they're not quite there. They're like, well, hey, let me go ahead and start the process for this, get the ball rolling,
Okay. So we got our thoughts out. Let's look at the second one. A third bomb I found out was actually made ready to be dropped on Japan if they were going to tell us that they were not going to stand down after the bombing of Nagasaki.
Oh, I totally believe that.
Yeah, I believe that.
Yeah.
You believe that one?
Sure.
Okay. And then there's the third statement. The broken arrow designation that we use is one of the many call signs that we have to assign the severity of a nuclear weapon mishap. Say, it was armed by accident, we lost it, there was an issue with chain of command, something like that. Broken arrow is one of those designations, and the one that we're going to be focusing on primarily today.
That sounds legit, and that's why I don't believe it. But that you could say the same thing about the second one,
right?
They all sound legit. I don't like this.
I told you, this was hard. I wrote the damn thing, and I know it's hard.
I just want to win one. Is that too much to ask?
I think you have won one of them, and I don't know. I have to go back and listen and really tally up everyone's score. So I'll give you guys a couple seconds to really think about it, talk about it if you want, because I know you're going to need to.
Either of you? I can't.
I'm going to go ahead and say, I'm thinking the second one.
You think the second was the lie?
Because it sounds the most real. It has to be fake.
You think so?
I'm going to go ahead and just say that's the one you picked. Because for some reason, I'm like, we would totally do that. And that's why he picked it, because it sounds like something America would totally do. They would, of course.
Yes, but you also know, to be fair, I write lies that are very close to what actually happened, and then it's just I remove one bit of details that changes everything. Yeah. That's part of what makes my lies so difficult.
It's not fair.
I'm going to stick to the second one.
You think it's the second one?
As much as I want to pick the third one.
You don't think we had a third bomb ready for Japan? I'll give you a chance.
All right.
I'll give you a chance to change your mind.
I want to hear what CC and Nathan have to say.
All right, Cece, let's go to you real quick.
I'm genuinely stumped. Oh, Christ almighty, dude. This isn't fair.
I'll give you a second, Cece. Nathan, what's your thought process?
I'm gonna go with the third one, dude.
You think it's the third
I'm gonna go
one?
with the third one.
You don't think that broken arrow is one of the many designations for a nuclear weapons mishap that we have?
Yeah, let's go with the third one.
Okay.
I'm
going to be
stuck between
honest,
second and
Nathan.
third.
If I go, all right, I'm going to be honest, man. There's a reason I named this episode "Broken Arrow," so I'm interested to see your reasoning as to why you don't
Because
think
it
that
has
was
to be
true.
one of them.
Fair enough. I can't argue that.
You know what? I'm gonna stick to my guns. I'm gonna
You're gonna stick to your guns. You think it's the second one?
I think it's the second one.
All right, Cece, you're the only one left.
Oh, I don't know. Okay, screw it. I'm going to say second. Screw it.
You're gonna say the second one?
Yep.
All right. So Vlad, Cece, you guys think it's the second one. You guys do not think we had a third bomb ready to drop on Japan. And Nathan, you do not think it's the third one. You don't think that we have broken arrow as one of the many designations for our nuclear weapons mishaps. Sounds good? Everyone agree with that?
I'm just guessing at this one. I have no clue.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
really
I'm just
reluctant, but yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and say yeah.
All right. I'm about to lock you guys in.
There we go.
I'll give you one more chance because I know it's hard.
I don't know.
What was the first one again?
First one is that the first patent for a nuclear bomb happened before we discovered nuclear fission.
I'm gonna stick with the second one.
You're going to stick with the second one. Okay, Vlad, I'm locking you into the second one. Cece, you still sure?
No.
This is your chance to change it before I lock you in.
Just lock me in, otherwise I'll be indecisive.
All right, I'm going to lock you in with Vlad on the second one. Nathan, I'll give you one more chance to change your
I'm
mind
gonna
if you
switch over to
want.
number 2. Why not? Let's do it.
You think it's number 2?
Let's go.
Wow, okay. So we're all going with the second option. We all say that the third bomb was not ready to be dropped on Japan. You know, that's what we're saying.
Yeah.
All right, I'm locking all of us in. All right. You guys think you're going to win this one? All right. Well, as always, I figured let's start at the beginning. Let's look at the history of our of nuclear energy as a source of power and weapon before we dig into, the Manhattan Project and everything, and then all of our Cold War nuclear stuff. So I did a little bit of research, and I found out there's a man named Leo Szilard. He was the man who would first conceive a nuclear reaction and a bomb patent. He had the idea on September 12th, 1933, that the then recently discovered neutron could theoretically start a chain reaction similar to a chemical chain reaction. However, the theory that he proposed does not share the same mechanisms as the nuclear fission that we know operates today. At the time, there was no way known to start such a reaction. However, Szilard knew in time a scientist would discover it, and a bomb of unknown magnitude could be made. For this reason, he would file a patent on the concept of a neutron-induced nuclear chain reaction bomb. Well, just the reaction, but the principle can be used to make a bomb in 1933, and it was granted in 1936.
So it's a good thing I didn't pick the first one.
Yes.
All right.
Yes, I don't think
Under
the first.
section, yeah. Under Section 30 of the Patents and Designs Act of 1907 in the United Kingdom, Szilard was able to assign the patent to a British admiralty to ensure its secrecy. Nuclear fission, however, is the process, quick definition, is the process in nuclear physics in which the nucleus of an atom splits into two or more smaller nuclei as fission products, releasing energy and usually some byproduct particles such as free neutrons, photons usually in the form of gamma rays, and other nuclear fragments like beta and alpha particles, which are either a helium atom or just free electrons.
Mm-hmm.
This was first discovered in Germany in December of 1938 by physicists Lise Meitner, Otto Frisch, Otto Hahn, and Fritz Strassmann. Now, to be fair, I'm not German. I definitely butchered a couple of those names. I apologize. But I wanted to make sure I got everyone's name because on different articles, they credit different groups of these individuals because they all had a hand in it in different ways. So I wanted to make sure I got all of them listed. So with this in mind, of course, I say 1938. This is right before the start of World War II. This is right as Hitler's Nazi nationalism regime was starting to, take hold, and really pushing for, pro-German, unity and mindset and, push for the Aryan race and everything.
Yeah.
So, of course, as history tells us, Germany really tried to take advantage of all possible assets and technology, including nuclear technology. So with this in mind, we're going to move on to the Uranium Committee.
Okay.
There was a growing concern in America from scientists that were fleeing these nations from Germany and Italy about Germany's ability to develop a nuclear weapon. Remember, a lot of the scientists that discovered this ability came from Germany. A letter known as the Einstein-Zillard letter was sent to inform President Roosevelt of the German nuclear weapons project that was already being developed, and urged the United States to focus on research and development to nuclear energy and technology using uranium. The reason for such a big push was before this letter was sent, the mindset was, like Ziller had, just patent the technology and keep it out of everyone else's hands. Now that they all know that Germany had the research already ahead of them, the ability to just wait it out was no longer an option, and they were pushing the U.S. To get ahead of nuclear developments, so that way, you have the biggest, baddest weapon. At least keep it out of the hands of the enemy. That was kind of the mindset. So we look at the Uranium Committee, and we got members including Albert Einstein, Enrico Fermi, and Leo Szilard, and many others. That were part of this initial research committee looking into uranium, and the many properties it had. I learned a few other fun facts about like the first nuclear reactor, the Chicago Pile 1, how it used uranium rods in a graphite encased tomb almost. It was literally a pile that they were just inserting rods in and out of and measuring the radiation. I didn't do too much research because I figured that'd be a fun topic on its own, but definitely worth looking into because I think they did about 3 different piles at the University of Chicago.
I would imagine like at least somebody died during all this.
No, I don't think anybody died in this stage of nuclear development.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, because they didn't even learn. Well, because at this point they didn't know anything about like critical mass or anything like that. They didn't learn about nuclear bombardments and how that changes based on metals. They didn't. I think at this point they had not discovered plutonium yet, which is going to be what really kicks everything off. So. But many of the discoveries that we associate with like the Manhattan Project and, the whole nuclear age and everything actually came from all the discoveries that these men made during their time on the Uranium Committee, long before, the Manhattan Project was even conceptualized. But of course, with that in mind, let's move on to the Manhattan Project. Originally named the development of substitute materials, the then $2 billion, which adjusted for today's inflation is almost $26 billion, was started in 1939 and lasted until 1946. Over 90% of the original cost went to just fissile material, which means just mining the raw uranium materials, with the rest of the less than 10% going into development of the actual bombs themselves. I tried to look more into the specifics of what information or what finances went where specifically. There was 3 big sites at the time. There was Oak Ridge, there was Los Alamos, and I forget the third one off the top of my head. But a lot of these, sites were developing different parts of the bomb at the time. Like, for example, in Oak Ridge, there was a bunch of civilians. I believe it was like 30,000 civilians or something like that. I could be completely wrong about that number because I didn't look too hard into it. But there was a bunch of civilians in this town, which at the time, no one actually knew existed. It was not marked on any maps or anything. There was no roads going in. The entire town was self-sufficient, so that way no information could be leaked out.
Oh.
Yeah. A lot of the civilians there didn't even know what they were doing. They were just told to do one specific job, such as one example I read was a man was told, look for this flashing light. If you see this flashing light, take this material over here. If not, you put it over there. He did not know that he was using a primitive form of a Geiger counter to test for radiation.
That's so weird, dude.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Even the people using this did not know what they were doing most of the time. It was very rare for somebody to have, most, if not a complete picture of what they were doing.
Feels mild
You know.
exploitative.
Yeah, it is. The amount of secrecy that went into this project is ridiculous, and it still doesn't help the fact that there was more than enough stories about Soviet spies still infecting the program and stealing secrets. Yeah, one, I believe, even worked very closely with Oppenheimer himself. Yeah. Which, speaking of Oppenheimer, let's get into him just a little bit. He was the famous nuclear physicist Robert Oppenheimer. He was the director of the Los Alamos laboratory that the first bombs were actually physically developed and became possible here. He's very famous for quoting the Hindu scripture, "I am become death, the destroyer of worlds," after the first bomb had dropped that they tested, which I actually found out they developed 4 bombs, that were planned to be produced. The first one was called the Gadget. That was the first bomb ever dropped, period, end of story. That was the one that was tested out in the Nevada desert during the Trinity test sites. After that bomb was dropped and was confirmed that we could explode and detonate a nuclear bomb, then came the development of the Little Boy and Fat Man, which we dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. There was a plan for a 4th one. However, that one never made it into production. There's a reason for that, in part not because of the Japanese, but because of an accident, which we will cover in just a second. So yeah, it was never used, this 4th bomb, so it never had a name designated to it or anything.
Okay.
With a vast history of spies and accidents and developments made by the many, many people that worked on the project, there's just too much information to cover. Like, I spent 40 hours alone just looking into the Manhattan Project, and I'm like, this isn't even like the focus of what we're covering today. So
there's a lot of
there's so much I'm not covering that is worth the research. It's worth the time to really look into what happened. So yeah, I can't give proper credit to everyone that worked on it. It's virtually impossible because so many thousands of people worked to develop this technology, which we use in a lot of our nuclear reactors today. So, there's pros and cons to everything we do in science.
Of course.
But in talking about the 4th bomb, we're going to talk about one of my favorite nuclear, topics of all time. We're going to talk about the aptly named Demon Core.
Ooh.
Now, is that familiar to any of you guys?
Yeah,
That's not, but that sounds fancy.
I've heard
That
of
sounds
it,
like
actually.
something straight out of Doom. Yeah, I was going to say, it sounds like something straight out of Doom.
So when I first, looked into the Demon Core years ago, whenever I just like looking at random information and whatnot, I thought it only happened once. Turns out it happened twice. Let me explain. So, code name Rufus, and I'm not joking.
Oh
They literally called this tiny little thing Rufus.
That's fine.
I love it.
The Demon Core was a 14-pound or 6.2 kilogram subcritical mass. And when I say subcritical, it was just 5% under the margin necessary to make a complete nuclear bomb. So no room for error. This was intended to be used later as the 3rd bomb to drop on Japan. However, due to the accidents I'm about to cover, this is why we never used it. The core would remain at a supercritical mass in 2 separate tests, leading to the direct deaths of scientists Harry Daghlian in a prior experiment and Louis Slotin, which is the one we're about to cover today. Now, Louis Slotin, he was a brilliant scientist, but he was cocky as hell, and I say that in no uncertain terms. May he rest in peace. I'm grateful for the work that he did, but he was cocky, and it's what killed him. Slotin, at his time working at the Los Alamos station and everything, he would get to be very bored with the work that he was doing because he felt he had a firm understanding of everything that was going on. Every experiment he ran, he was able to do without fail, and he wanted to leave to go back to be a professor. However, he needed to train a replacement first to get a firm understanding of what they're doing, as research was still needed. There's still a lot about, nuclear technology we didn't know at the time. So on May 21st, 1946, Slotin, along with 7 other Los Alamos personnel, including scientists and military personnel, began to conduct the experiments to verify. Excuse me, didn't mean to burp there. They began the experiment to verify the criticality point to Alvin C. Graves, who was supposed to be his replacement. who would use it in one more test prior to Operations Crossroads, the nuclear test that we did at the Bikini Atoll. These tests were designed, the test designs that had been in place used a plutonium core surrounded by two beryllium half spheres covers, so that way they would work as neutron deflectors, forcing the nuclear reaction to start, as the neutrons wouldn't have a way to escape. They constantly bombarded to the plutonium and keep the reaction breaking more particles down. Okay. So that's how this works. So it's like almost that moment where you're a child and you're trying to close the door just enough until you see the light close before it's technically all the way closed. Yeah. That's basically what they're doing with these two halves of the spheres, except when you close the fridge door, the light goes off. When you close the sphere on this, everyone dies.
Yeah.
So let me explain the events of what happened. So the original experiment that was designed at this time was refined off the experiment of what they did with Harry Daghlian. With Daglin's experiment, they had covered the plutonium sphere with a bunch of bricks, I believe were graphites, and they were used in this way to control the neutron radiation and get it bouncing back into the core. Okay. Daghlian at the time had reached a point that he feared they would reach the supercriticality point and have no way to return. So he tried to remove the bricks to lower the bombardment and kill the reaction. He had unintentionally dropped one of these bricks on top of the plutonium core. It just takes a fraction of a second. The dude died within 5 days, I believe. Yeah, because that half second was more than enough time for that criticality point to be reached. I think he was the only person to die because the only other person in the room at the time that he conducted the experiment was one security guard who was sitting, far away from the experiment. I believe, of course, he did receive some radiation burns that he suffered from the rest of his life, complicated illnesses like everyone else would. But I think he lived like an extra 30 years or something.
That's terrifying. That something so simple can cause so much damage.
All it takes is a fraction of a second.
Wouldn't surprise me, to be fair, though.
I mean, yes, but at the same time, it's like when it comes to how Slotin did it, I can't help but just scream "fucking moron," Of course,
no, definitely.
Hindsight being 20/20, Of course, I know better because I have the history books to tell me. But the way that they redesigned the experiment after what happened to Daghlian is that they would use the beryllium cores as the neutron deflectors, and they would separate it by shims, like carpentry shims, and they would wiggle that out as an easier way to control it because I don't know the reasoning behind it. To me, I still think it's stupid, but apparently this made more sense, so this is what they went with. That was how the experiment was designed. Slotin took it upon himself to refine the experiments, and it was never approved. The way he ran the experiment is that he did not use shims. He used a fucking screwdriver. He used a screwdriver to prop it open. Just one.
So
you can already start to see where the accident's about to happen.
Yeah, it's like you got this thing.
Yeah.
You got this thing that kills so many people, and you decide to pry it open
again.
With your hand.
Well, he had performed this experiment several times over with the screwdriver without fail, and he's, like I said, he's cocky. He grew very bored of the experiment, so he thought he had a firm handle on things. But on this specific day, he used his modified form of the experiment to show it off to Alvin. I could not remember that name for some reason. It's in my notes, and I lost it. So he was trying to perform the experiment for Alvin and all the other personnel that were around, to get them, familiar with the experiment, to understand, the criticality points. Unfortunately, Slotin's hand slipped. The screwdriver was pulled out just enough that the beryllium core fell down on the plutonium core. And in that moment, a bright blue flash of incandescent light flashed into the room. And within that half second, Slotin had taken his hand and just threw the top part of the beryllium core off. That's killing the reaction. Woo! We all good? I heard a loud noise.
That wasn't me.
No.
All right. As long as we're good. But anyways.
He kills the reaction.
Yeah, he killed the reaction. But at that point, Slotin was the one person pretty much almost completely around the core. He received most of the dosage. I believe he had like over 1,000, what was it, civils, rads, whatever you use to measure radiation off the top of my head. I can't remember. In that half second. However, one good thing did come out of this because I didn't write down on my notes, but I remember reading it. What they did is Slotin then told everyone not to move. He took chalk, threw it at everyone, and told them to mark on the floor where you're standing. And they were able to use this data to, research the spread of radiation over time.
Oh.
Yeah, so some good did come out of it.
Yeah, that's cool.
I feel like there's probably a better way to do that, though.
Probably.
Well, again, you break a couple eggs, you go make an omelet. That's kind of the mentality. He already fucked up. Take advantage, of what you got. So, like I said, flash blue light. Yeah, he learned his lesson because unfortunately, 9 days later, he would actually die. His radiation burns. Well, just listen to this part. His radiation burns were so bad that the medical aid that was examining him, they called it 3-dimensional sunburns.
What?
Yes, because it didn't just burn his skin. It burned his organs.
Nice.
Oh, dude.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, he died 9 days later, and almost everyone else in that room suffered some form of medical problems related to, nuclear radiation for the rest of their lives. Yeah. Yeah, it's real bad.
Dude, nuclear radiation
I saw
scary.
it's terrifying. I saw a picture of Slotin's hand, just hours after, and it's as if you dipped it in acid and it was just peeling off. That's how bad it was. Yeah.
Thank you for that mental image.
It was horrible. But I felt this little tidbit was important to cover because it's very important, in relation to what all the other problems that we're about to cover, the broken arrow cases. So broken arrow, as defined, by, the military, it refers to an accidental event that involves nuclear weapons, warheads, or components that does not create a risk of nuclear war. So now, the Demon Core incident is very closely related to a lot of these other things. Even though it was a research development and not a military application at the time, it was still the same mishap that would not have led to the war. But, it's important to understand, how stupid we were and how stupid we can be in other things in life. Not gonna date this episode, but, it happens. But broken arrow is not the only designation that we have. There's more than I thought, because I thought we only had 3 designations for a nuclear-related mishap in our military. There's a lot more than that I found out. Here are some of them. There's the empty quiver cases. This refers to the seizure, theft, or loss of a functioning nuclear weapon. So it's just gone. We don't have it for one reason or another. That would be an empty quiver case.
And this has never happened before.
Yes, it has.
Oh,
what?
Yes, it has. There has been a case where I believe it was a U.S. the pilot's plane was loaded with a thermonuclear ballistic missile, and due to a storm, the plane had fallen off the boat, and it was recovered by a foreign nation.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, that's scary.
Oh, yeah. It's terrifying. Oh, it gets worse.
Oh.
Next one, the bent spear. This refers to incidences involving nuclear weapons, warheads or components, or vehicles transporting nuclear material, but isn't related to nuclear-related incidences themselves, such as, security breaches, your trucks that are transporting materials breaks down, yada, yada, yada. Mm-hmm. So this one's not too bad.
Yeah, unfortunately, but not too bad.
Yeah. Then there is the dull sword, which is interesting. I didn't even know this one existed. This refers to reports of minor incidences involving nuclear weapons, components, or systems which could impair their deployment. So such as there's a faulty, fail-safe or something, there's a faulty switch that would make the bomb unable to activate or activate prematurely. Mm-hmm. That would be a dull sword event. Then here's the one that I didn't even know happened, or I didn't even know existed, and it's called a nuke flash. A nuke flash is this refers to the detonation or possible detonation of a nuclear weapon, which creates the risk of an outbreak of nuclear war. This has happened already. Yes, this has happened. I did not look into the case because I figured that might be good in its own time. I very briefly glanced into it. And I believe it was an incident that happened with a submarine torpedo during the Cuban Missile Crisis. Yeah. So, though I might be misremembering some information, because at the same time, I was looking into a bunch of other, Cold War topics at the time too. So I might be confusing some things.
Just the idea that we'd been stupid close to basically planet just fucking going yeet and dying off.
That's basically what
you want to know something even scarier?
Oh, yes and no.
Well, since 1933 or I should say 1945 to 1968, there have been 33 confirmed reports of a broken arrow incident. That's just what the public knows.
Wow.
That's just what the public knows about.
Probably a few more.
Oh, yeah. There's a writer whose name I forgot to write down, but I think it's like Eric Schlossman. He wrote a book all about, nuclear history and everything like that, and our U.S. military's history with nuclear weapons and mishaps with that. He firmly believes that number is a lot higher, like in the hundreds.
Yeah, I'd imagine so. And that I don't like that. In the slightest.
I don't like it either. So I figured I did some research and I looked into some of the 33 confirmed cases that we definitely know about. And I picked out 2 of them. We're going to cover, real quick, the first one that happened. This happened in 1950 on February 14th. It happened on Valentine's Day of all days. So there was a Convair B-36 plane that was carrying a Mark IV nuclear bomb that would suffer a failure and would have to be jettisoned over British Columbia. A 17-man crew would board the B-36 and depart from Elson Air Force Base near Fairbanks, Alaska, and carry out a simulated nuclear attack on San Francisco before landing at the Carswell Air Force Base in Fort Worth, Texas. The reason for the simulated attack was a plan, if needed be, that we could carry out long distance over Soviet Russia. So we were planning a similar distance kind of course, for this experiment, for this theoretical attack. Here's some problems. The negative 40 degrees, both Celsius and Fahrenheit, weather would adversely affect the plane. They had to keep the plane running, or else their fuel and oil would literally freeze over. So they were just running the plane the whole time. This would lead to some issues with the carburetor later on. 7 hours into the flight, 3 of the 6 engines would catch fire and shut down, and the others could not provide full power. The issue came from ice buildup on the carburetor air intakes, which normally I found out are designed to be right next to the engine, so that way the heat coming off the engines keeps the carburetors, warm enough to operate properly.
Yeah.
However, for the design for the Convair B-36, the carburetors were placed near the front, away from the engines, and it's believed that ice built up inside and was then injecting just pure straight fuel into the engines, and that's what caused the fire.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
That sounds like chaos.
So it is chaos. The crew had to act fast, and they decided then at that point, in a quick decision, that they had to jettison the payload. The bomb detonated mid-air.
Wow.
The United States Air Force, yeah. The United States Air Force later stated that a fake core was used for practice and had been inserted into the weapon before it dropped, so the explosion was only a large conventional detonation. The core that they said that they used was not a plutonium core, however, it did contain uranium. They used a lead core instead, so that way you could arm the whole bomb and everything, but it wouldn't create an actual nuclear fission bomb. That's what they claim happens. We don't know where the actual core is. Some reports speculate that it's either with the Pentagon or with the Department of Defense somewhere. But again, so many of these declassified files were missing a lot of information, or a lot of the information was redacted. So we'll never truly know the full story.
Yeah.
That's always not at all worrying.
Yeah, trust me, I know. And imagine how many of these I read So it's ridiculous.
How's your sanity doing?
You said there was like 30 of them, right?
33 confirmed cases.
Wow.
Bloody
Yeah.
hell. I don't like that in the slightest. I just don't.
Oh yeah, no, it's ridiculous. There's very famous cases like the ones that happen at Palmeros in Spain. There's very famous case that happened. You good there, Vlad?
I'm good. I accidentally tripped something over.
It's okay.
All right, cool.
There's a very famous case that happened in Eureka, North Carolina, where two bombs flew into the rural area and fell like I think 60 feet into the mud. And only one of the bombs have ever been recovered.
Wait, 50 feet?
Oh, God.
Into the ground. Into the ground, not on top of it. Just not a crater. They had the U.S. military had to dig out all that dirt. They were able to recover one of the bombs, but they were not able to recover the payload of the second bomb.
I'm sorry, America, but what?
Oh, it gets worse. It gets so much worse because there's a lot of there are incidences I didn't write down that did happen in Britain.
Oh no! Please no.
Mm-hmm. So
I don't like that.
To finish off with this story, the men then had to bail out of the plane, and the Royal Canadian Air Force would be called minutes later to launch Operation Bricks to locate the missing men. 12 of the 17 men would be located, with 4 of them believing to have landed in the Pacific and died of hypothermia. And there are rumors that the last remaining crew member was found. His skeletal remains were found at the crash site itself. However, these are rumors. We don't have any confirmed reports from the U.S. military, the Canadian military, or even the civilians who would later be on their own trek to explore the site. It would take 3 years for the crashed plane to be found by a Royal Canadian Air Force flight located in Mount Colleget. I honestly don't know how to say that word, in that region. It was on September of 1953. I don't know why I said 35. A 19-day expedition was set out to find the site, but however, it proved to be unsuccessful due to the harsh terrain at the time. And a new expedition was launched a year later in 1954. In this expedition, they would find the site and recovered a lot of crucial components and destroyed a lot of the visible parts of the plane that was above the ice, or above the snow, I should say. Locals were sworn to secrecy, and no one, including the Canadian government, were even informed of the nuclear payload that was on the plane at the time, or the possible risks being exposed in the area for over 40 years.
Why?
In U.S. government, man, I'm telling you, it's crazy. Here's what makes things better. Here's what makes things even better. In 1997, 2 separate expeditions were launched, one Canadian and one American, that were set out to the crash site and run some tests in the area. The Canadian expedition reported that there were no harmful levels of radiation. However, the Americans did not share this assessment. Yeah. To this day, we do not know what exactly happened to the bomb. We have the reports that were given by a lot of the crew members and everything. However, we've never found any fragments of the bomb to this day. We don't know where the payload is. We don't know what happened to the primary or secondary ignitions. We have no idea.
So worrying.
Yeah, it really is. It's ridiculous. So that was the first ever broken arrow incident.
Yeah.
It was supposed to be just a routine flight mission that went completely haywire. Luckily, most of the crew survived, but at the same time, it's like, why?
I think it's wild that this stuff happens.
I mean, yeah, but again, at the same time, the mentality is this is the Cold War. At literally any fucking second, the Soviets could launch a missile at us. We have to be ready.
Yeah.
Again, this is where the term arises about mutually assured destruction. So we're always on edge, always ready. And this next one that we're about to cover really kind of demonstrates how far we were willing to go to protect ourselves.
Yeah.
So the second and last one that we're going to talk about today was part of an operation known as Operation Chrome Dome. The incident itself is known as the Thule Affair. The Thule Affair was an incident that happened at the Thule Air Force Base located in Greenland, which would witness a broken arrow event that would terminate the Operation Chrome Dome as a whole, which was a U.S. nuclear deterrent plan to fly bombers around the Soviet borders carrying nuclear payloads to prevent the Soviets from striking first. Okay. We were literally not giving them an option to strike first the whole time this was going on. So what the original plan called for was that we would have 12 bombers in the air at all times. Around the time that this was happening, this event, that was wound down to 4. But at all times, there was nuclear payload missiles on all these planes the whole time, circling around. Flying around the Soviet airspace border.
That's ridiculously dangerous.
But that's totally safe.
Well, again, the mentality is, we have to be able to take care of ourselves, all risks necessary. That was kind of the mentality at the time. Mm-hmm. So on this fateful day, on January 21st, 1968, the American B-52 Stratofortress bomber, which was nicknamed Hobo 28, was loaded with 4 41.1 megaton thermonuclear missiles. This would suffer from an onboard fire that the crew were unable to contain. 6 of the 7 crew members would safely abort the plane, and they would live before the inevitable crash. However, the 7th member, I believe the report said that he did not have an injectable seat and died with the crash. Yeah. The conventional explosives of the thermonuclear bombs would detonate, throwing radioactive material all over the ice sheet where the plane crashed, and would burn for 5 hours, melting through the ice sheet and sinking. Yeah.
Even in that temperature?
Yes, even in that temperature. That is how hot this stuff was burning.
That is impressive.
Yeah, it's ridiculously impressive and ridiculously stupid.
Yeah.
How this happened. You want to know how this happened, by the way?
Yeah.
So the reason the fire started in the first place was when they launched the plane and they were going on their normal mission, everything was fine. They went for a refueling in the air. This is where problem number 1 started. The autopilot wasn't functioning, so they had to do this manually. So the refueling plane was refueling the bomber at the time. Everything was fine, even though they had to handle it manually. But the heating elements on the plane was not working, and a lot of the crew members were complaining how cold it was. So they opened up, I believe, a release exhaust valve from the heat of the engines directly to the cabin to heat them up.
What?
And for half an hour, they were dealing with sweltering heat, as there was no way to cool down the air enough to be comfortable in the cabin. They did not realize at the time that things were burning. Like, they could smell that things were burning, but they could not find a fire until they found, I believe it was the seat cushions that were starting to catch fire. They went to go grab one of the first fire extinguishers that they had, used the whole thing, wasn't enough. Eventually, they went through every single one of their fire extinguishers before the entire cabin was completely ablaze. And at that point, they could not fly. The smoke was so bad, pilots could not see where they were even going.
That sounds like pure hell.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
Oh, that's terrifying.
Ridiculous.
Can't imagine being in that situation,
There was a lot of other things about this case that I didn't write down, such as there's a bunch of evidence that doesn't line up with official reports and even declassified reports that came out now. There's a lot of information that still doesn't line up. But it was like so much nuanced information. I didn't write it. I didn't feel like it was important, but it does raise a lot of interesting questions that I would like to dive down in the future. But let's get back to the accident. So, plane crashes, it sinks into the ice sheets. This happened, I believe, I think it was like 20 miles away from the Thule Air Force Base. Like I said, everything melted and fell beneath the ice sheet, sinking the plane. Everyone on base, both on duty and off duty, would then aid in the search at night using dog sled crews to find the missing men. Denmark and the U.S. would work together on a project called Crested Ice to clean up the crash site. The U.S. would erect Camp Hunziker to collect contaminated ice and material to send to the U.S. for containment. Denmark suffered many controversies after news about this broke out. The country had taken up a nuclear-free zone policy in 1967, and a lot of the public believed that they were in violation of this. Due to the classified nature of the program, the public in both the U.S. and Denmark were told that the plane only diverted to Greenland as an emergency attempt, but they were never trying to fly nuclear, payloads over Greenland. Obviously, that's not true.
Load of bullshit.
Was unaware of. Yeah, the public was completely unaware of the routine flights that were happening almost every day of every hour up until America declassified the documents in 1995.
Nice, very classy.
So for like just under 30 years, no one had any idea how bad this really was.
Makes you wonder,
Oh, it makes you wonder what they're doing now.
Yeah.
Concerned.
Yep, that's what it's like to be an American every day. But anyways, when the Denmark public found out about this, the news reporters at the time dubbed this Thulgate, and it was named, like I said, by the reporters to the scandal. And the Parliament of the Kingdom of Denmark then ordered a report from the Danish Institute of International Affairs to learn more about the U.S. missions in Greenland associated with the nuclear missiles and the Thule Air Force Base. A 2-volume report in 1997 explained that the U.S. flew many missions in good faith with the Danish government recurringly. Prime Minister H.C. Hansen would be singled out for allowing the ambiguity of the agreement between Denmark and the U.S. The Danish cleanup crew that was used at the time, not for the actual cleanup, but for the housing of the contaminated materials, they would suffer long-term health issues and would fail to sue the U.S. government, but they would receive compensation from Denmark. It would later be found out that when they were trying to do this is whenever a lot of declassified reports about the Thule Air Force Base and the whole Chrome Dome operation was being released, and was later discovered that the U.S. didn't even check on the health of the U.S. pilots ever about nuclear radiation or exposure. So,
of course,
go up.
That's not.
Yeah. Last little bit of information. What's up?
I'm totally not judging y'all.
Yeah. Well, last little bit of information I found out about this. In 2008, the BBC, along with other credible sources, discovered proof in the declassified documents that one of the nuclear bombs could not be found, contradicting earlier reports that all 4 bombs detonated safely. To this day, we do not know where that core is. We have no idea.
That's a lovely thought.
It's great to know that there might be a few nuclear cores just kind of lying around the planet,
I also found out during, my research into Operation Chrome Dome, though this was the only nuclear incident I looked into, there was 4 other incidences that would happen during this operation in Greenland.
Christ.
Yeah. So I didn't look into them. I couldn't tell you what they were about, but this was one of them. And God knows how many more happened.
I have a feeling a lot of this is just going to be me judging and being mildly concerned.
I'm concerned.
We have every right to be concerned. It's weird that this brings me to the Shin Godzilla movie. But there is a line in that movie that I had to get translated that, pretty much explains our relation and understanding with nuclear technology. It's here to stay.
Oh, yeah.
It's here for good. We have to learn to live with it. We cannot play ignorant and think we know what we're doing and play God, because it is what's killing us.
I love that movie, by the way. It's so freaking good.
I don't care. I watched that whole movie. I watched that whole movie without, the subtitles. I don't care if I don't understand a damn thing.
Really?
Yeah, I love that movie. It's really good.
There's subtitle versions some people play that you can watch. But no. And I think they have it on DVD now. Mm-hmm. But it's really good. CC. It's I'd say it's out of all the Godzilla movies. And by the way, Godzilla just in general as a franchise is a really great metaphor.
Are you kidding me?
It's fucking amazing.
But that was the whole point, though. Godzilla exists because of the nuclear age, because of Hiroshima and Nagasaki.
Yeah,
because he's the analogy of the fear of nuclear power.
Yeah,
that's why he was created. That's why a lot of his powers of this kaiju are based around nuclear energy.
I have
his
never
gamma
seen
ray
anything
blast.
about Godzilla. I've never watched any Godzilla movies or read anything about it.
Totally recommend.
I am
For
entirely ignorant
shame.
to it. Oh, I'm
For
sorry.
shame.
I would say, I would
first one's
say
a
a really
classic.
good starting point. And by the way, I would say a really good starting point because these are the ones I showed my girlfriend, and she totally got it. Actually, watch the new ones. Watch
Yes.
the Gareth Edwards one. It's just called Godzilla. It came out like 2009, something like that. I don't know. 2013, but I'm pretty sure. But basically, it's a really great, really fantastic film series about just the dangers of nuclear technology and just the damage we did to Japan.
Yeah, it's crazy.
By the way, did you did we get that one right?
What?
Was it the third nuclear bomb?
You all got it right. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Because there was no actual bomb made. There was no actual bomb made because of the incidents that they discovered at the Demon Core. Okay. Because of the unstable supercriticality of the core, that the U.S. decided not to go forward and develop the third bomb, because that was what the core was originally going to be used for after they were done testing it.
Okay.
Is that they were going to actually use it for the core. So, but after, like I said, after the diving and slotting, they decided not to go for it.
All right.
So,
okay.
But yeah, you all got it right this time.
Hell yeah.
So yeah, kind of surprised. But I wasn't joking. Like I said, I wrote it myself, and I knew it was hard.
It was very hard.
So I didn't intend for that to be the case.
It's funny though, because that one was like the one that I was the most suspicious about. Like it felt real. It felt like I almost felt like something I might have read somewhere.
I really thought y'all would have all picked the first one because that sounded like the most bullshit. That the nuclear bomb patent was made before we even discovered nuclear fission.
But that's why I thought it was real, because I'm like, it's fake enough to be real.
Yeah, you learned your lesson about the man-eating rock.
Yeah, I did.
But like I said, there's more than enough cases about this to research. Like the Goldsboro case is a very famous one. Palmeros is a very famous one. Eureka is a very famous case, and on and on and on it goes. And we're not even talking about nuclear meltdowns from factories or anything. Nothing like Chernobyl, nothing like Fukushima, which all deserve their own, research topics. But it's crazy to see how irresponsible we've been. And one of the cases that I read, it wasn't a broken arrow case. It was I believe it was a bent spear case. But this happened in 2007. There was they were doing routine checks, and delivering missiles on I believe it was what's the word called? A dummy mission, a fake mission, a simulation. There we go. Where the Air Force flight crew was supposed to be using dummy missiles to be put onto these jets, taken across the United States, and do their routine flights and everything, and so on and whatnot. Through 3 different sets of crews that examined these missiles, 3 different crews did not realize that not only did they have 6 real nuclear missiles with them, they had 6 armed nuclear missiles with them the whole time. They then put these nuclear missiles onto the jet, flew this plane all the way across the United States, still live and ready to go at any moment. And it wasn't until the pilot landed and another crew then went to go examine the payloads. Mm-hmm. And it was, I believe it was I can't remember. I think it was like an E-2 airman or something like that. I don't remember. He would then notice that something was off, located superior commanders, and then they confirmed, yes, these are 6 live nuclear warheads that we have right here.
In one location.
In one location that went on an 18-hour flight across the United States, and no one had any idea. The worst part is the people who are in charge of watching over these missiles and knowing what's the status on these missiles at every point of time, they had no idea they were even gone. They had no way to check. They had no way to be sure. Yeah. It was that
worrying.
Bad. It was that bad, And it's not the first time this has happened. And I guarantee you it's not going to be the last time either. The reason it happened, people got lazy, people got complacent, and didn't do the full thorough checks. That's how this happened. Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's hard to even fathom how we can let ourselves get to this place. This is where when people tell me about, justifying spending, $214 billion on our U.S. military, I'm like, for this? For this?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I can't justify that, If we're going to be this stupid with our money, I can't justify spending my money here, That's my viewpoints on it.
Yeah, no, I totally get it. Like, it's a little extreme. Oh, a lot of extreme, really.
If we did not have story after story after story of these kind of incidences, I wouldn't have a problem. Mm-hmm. I would probably be a little more open to the idea of supporting our military some more. But when I see mishap after mishap after mishap and just people being ignorant and all the stupid other shit that we're not even covering today,
I'm just wondering, like, how long is it going to be until we mess up to the point where it starts killing civilians? Just,
It's happened already.
I mean, I know, but, like, I'm talking about just,
intentionally killing?
No, not intentionally, but let's say, like, one of these planes, like, crash lands on a fucking, like, city or something. Like, I'm not saying I'm sure some kind of safety precaution, but I don't know. Like,
let me tell you what happened at Eureka.
Okay.
So I know I covered it briefly where I said, the 2 bombs dropped and fell into the pit.
Yeah.
The only reason they didn't detonate is because there were 6 fail safes. Every single one of those went off except for one, which was a low voltage trigger. And static electricity is more than enough to set that kind of trigger off. Yes. So to say it hasn't happened, no. It has definitely happened. I believe there's a case where it happened out in the middle of nowhere, where a bomb did actually detonate. What actually happened in that story, I didn't look into. I should have, because it was interesting, but I was kind of running low on time. But yeah, like there's all kinds of cases where it's these last second close calls that really save our ass. And time again, as I'm researching these stories, I realized one very important detail, that as safe and complicated as we make these machines, the only reason they keep failing is because of human error. Every time it's because of human error.
Yeah.
There was one incident where a bomb was accidentally dropped, and one of the crew members was literally quoted saying, "Shit, I dropped the damn thing."
Oh no.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. All because he misplaced his hand. It went through a little bit of turbulence, and he grabbed the release valve or the release lever,
Nice.
whatever it was, to drop the bomb.
Yeah.
Why
And
do
it
we
was
trust
arming
other
itself
humans
on
with
the
this
way
shit?
down. Because we're stupid.
We're
We're stupid
not a
as a species.
It's really funny though. All this like dangerous technology that we're like working with, it's amazing. It's really groundbreaking, created by humans, but they get broken by humans. So like,
yes, because we're stupid, we're redundant, and we're useless a lot of the time.
This species is full of dumbasses.
Right.
And it's really funny because I mean you're right. I mean we have to break a few eggs before we make an omelet, but
at the same time, it's like, at what cost, though?
Exactly. When we're dealing
what
with
is it going to take for us to be proactive about some shit and say, hey, let's be safe and not just, fucking play with whatever. Hey, let's not fucking take a screwdriver instead of the fucking procedures we agreed on and fucking create a chain reaction and kill ourselves.
Yeah, I mean, we're playing with like plutonium and airplanes. I mean, just airplanes alone are so freaking dangerous if you don't know how to man one. So imagine putting a bomb on top of one.
Well, hey,
hey
guys, I hate to cut this short, but I gotta head on out to work. So
you're good, man. I know you needed to go. We're about done anyways. So Nathan, as always, it was wonderful to have you on, and I can't wait to have you on to our next episodes. Yeah, we got a lot of interesting stuff ready to wind up.
I appreciate you guys having me. So thank you.
Absolutely, man.
Yeah. Till next one.
All right.
See you, Nathan.
But no, for real, honestly, with everything that we're doing with our nuclear technology then and now, like I said, because I also looked into a lot of nuclear meltdowns and everything. I looked into the even the environmentalist movement that happened in the 70s and 80s about people really pushing not to use nuclear energy. I looked into people who are using nuclear energy now, like France and Germany. Their use of renewable energy. I looked into nuclear fusion too. Yeah. And the state of that, but I'm going to save nuclear fusion for our future technologies episodes because there's a few other things I want to cover with that too.
The funny thing is, I remember I went to like a seminar once, or it was something like that, and they were talking about how there's all these different kinds of renewable energies that we use, and funny enough, Nuclear is one of the safest ones.
Yeah, it is
How?
the safest one.
It's surprising, but it's the safest one.
Okay. Let me explain real quick to you, CC, why it's the safest. So when we say nuclear energy is the safest, we are specifically referring to nuclear fusion, not fission. So fission is the technology we use now. In an ideal system, yes, fission is still the safest, but because of human error and our misunderstanding or misuse of certain technologies, it leads to fallouts and stuff like that, which makes it dangerous. But nuclear fusion doesn't create, any physical byproducts. It doesn't create any radioactive material. So therefore, whenever you kill a nuclear fusion reactor, you don't have to worry about any fallout or material being exploded anywhere. That's the theory behind that mentality.
Still feels like it's all dangerous to be playing with anything nuclear at all.
It's funny, they made the same argument about coal and gasoline.
I'm slightly skeptic of most things, in all honesty.
That's the reason why it's not any more popular, is because despite it being the most environmentally friendly, form of renewable energy, it scares people. You put the word nuclear in front of anything and it scares people.
Because we think 3 Mile Island, we think Fukushima, we think Chernobyl, we think of all these worst case scenarios. And I get it. I'm not saying we shouldn't. It's definitely important to remember these events and remember what can happen when things go wrong. But it's also important to embrace the possibility of when things go right. What's the best possible outcome? Because yes, France, I believe like 90% of their energy comes from renewable resources and nuclear energy. And they're doing so much better economically because of it than us. Mm-hmm. We're still on the fucking oil teat. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But like I said, I believe when technologies are handled safely, when they're handled appropriately, we can definitely make a lot of good advancements. We can definitely, take advantage of the possibilities of the future, and technologies only improve in time.
Yeah.
But they only improve when we use them,
That's right.
So it's just like, I don't think putting nuclear energy on hold or allowing our fear of this technology to take over is ever going to be good. That's why I was quoting Shin Godzilla. It's here to stay. It's not going anywhere. We have to learn.
The thing is I don't trust people to be careful. People are dumbasses at the best of times.
Yeah, I mean, fair. But okay, then it's like this. Let me put this analogy towards the sun. The sun's not going anywhere in our lifetime. Mm-hmm. It is here to stay. We cannot force it out. We cannot say goodbye. We cannot ignore it and stop using it. We don't have a choice.
Yeah.
That's the same thing with nuclear energy. We're at a point now where we have no return. Same thing with AI technology. We're at a point now where there is no return. If it's gone, we're all fucked.
Yeah.
So we have to learn to deal with it. It's not a choice anymore. As much as we don't like it, we have to learn to push through it. That's my 2 cents on it.
Yeah.
I think it's very ignorant to let our fears rule us like that.
And I do feel like nuclear energy would be such a great, I feel like it has so many benefits. But you're right. We just decided to use it to build a bomb.
Yeah, like that was literally the reason we got nuclear energy in the first place, was because we designed it for war.
And when someone's like, hey, look,
we are incredibly destructive.
And it does feel like we're more willing to build a nuclear bomb than a nuclear energy source.
We as a species are driven by our need to escape our fears. So if we use fear as a reasoning tool, we can justify things a lot easier than the, promise of a better tomorrow. As much as it's fucked up to say, that's the reality of the situation. Every technology that comes out is always a double-edged sword. It can be used for good. It can be used for bad. It's not inherently evil. Mm-hmm. It's the people who use it that make it inherently, bad. So am I happy that we have nuclear missiles and ICBMs that could kill us at any point? No. Am I happy for the technology it gave us to have a possible better future? Yeah. It's the necessary evil of science. Science doesn't take a position in people's lives. It doesn't take a stance on good or bad. It is up to us, and it is up to morals. It is up to our individual selves to decide what we want in life. Yeah. So when we're forced to come as a community, again, fear is the easiest way to motivate people.
The thing is,
But
the
we
greed
have
of
to
the
learn to push
few
past that.
influences the many.
Yeah, that's all it takes. I mean, with social media, fake news, and everything that we have now, it's becoming so easy once you're aware of it to see just how manipulative people can be and how easily, gullible people are.
Yeah.
They're willing to take the first thing that confirms their bias rather than actually prove a point.
And just look at the way a lot of people treat vaccines. Something that is genuinely good for us.
I don't get it. I don't get the mentality, and I hate the fact that people still go to one case or one study that was both proven to be false and heavily scrutinized, and the doctor who ran that case lost his medical license. People still refer to this case and claim it to be true.
That's what we do. Like,
and I'm just like,
it's really awful. And you're right. I don't think it. Let's be honest. There are a lot of people out there who will take that one case, that one bad case, and you're right. It's maybe it is an actual legitimate bad case, or maybe it's a bad case that was disproven. But they'll find any bit of evidence, any crumb of evidence, and completely just destroy, every bit of research because it's like,
because at the heart it's confirmation bias.
Yeah, exactly.
Anything that confirms what you already believe, you're more likely to accept as true.
Yeah.
And that's the stupid part about this. That's why I, personally believe it is more important that I surround myself with people that are willing to take that critical approach. Say, okay, let's just hear this out.
And I just want to say the whole fucking vaccines cause autism thing. I'm high functioning Asperger's. Yes, I have issues, but for Christ's sake, it's not that's something to be worried about.
I know. Well, again, I mean, this is something that you and I both deal with, but at the same time, this is something you're born with. This isn't something you develop. That's the main problem with that logic.
It is, yeah. But people are always like, oh, it's going to turn a child into a vegetable. It's going to ruin their life. Fuck off, is it?
Is it really going to ruin their lives, or is being medically bedridden and dead at the age of 12 going to ruin their life?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So... I had a fucking bitch fit with somebody years ago about this at one of the jobs I used to work at. I can't remember where it was. I think it was McDonald's. I'm not too sure.
Yeah.
But I got into a massive argument with one of my coworkers about that, and I looked him straight into the face and said, so you'd rather I be dead whenever I was 12 than be alive right now at 22? Mm-hmm. And she looked at me and then really started to process what I was saying. Because she knew, I had Asperger's at the time, and I had Asperger's and everything. She knew who I was. She knew everything I was about. So when I brought that reality to her, she just broke down. She broke down and apologized. And they tried to fire me for that because I yelled at her.
Really?
Yeah.
It's bullshit. People try and protect emotions. And I'm like, yeah, okay, I get that you're scared that you might have a hard time dealing with autistic children. And yes, I get it. Even high functioning can be really hard to deal with. I'm not going to deny that. But we're still people, for goodness sake.
Right?
I kind of want to know what the Venn diagram of people who refuse to wear masks and people who believe that freaking vaccines cause mental illnesses. I wonder what that looks like. I really do want to know what that looks like because I feel like it's really close together.
It's mostly you all Americans. I'm going to say that right now. It's mostly you American people.
Oh, I know. And it's stupid. And I hate it. We used to be the smartest, most powerful country. Now we're the dumbest, most powerful country.
And you have Trump in charge.
I know! It's ridiculous.
Yeah, no, it really is. So, you know what? I'm really glad Trump wasn't in charge during, the Cold War.
Oh, Christ, that's the fault. Imagine that.
I just think about... We would definitely be dead by now.
Oh, no, yeah.
There would not even be a chance for us to be alive right now.
I feel like we would have drawn a nuclear bomb as soon as possible.
We would have been fucked. We would have, I guarantee you, we would have even sent missiles into other fucking countries that had nothing to do with it because we're that fucking stupid. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, at one report, at the height of the Cold War, most of our missile capacities, we were at 30,000 warheads, nuclear warheads.
Oh, that's a horrible
You know how many we have today? What's up?
That's a horrible thought that you just had that on call at any one point.
Oh, yeah, no. That's just what the U.S. had alone. That's not even including Russia or even the other nuclear power. Currently today, the U.S. stands at, I think, 2,181 warheads. So a substantial reduction because there was a treaty written up a long time ago between Russia's government and us to start disarming ourselves because we wanted to de-escalate the Cold War. This is when Nikolai Khrushchev was tearing down the Berlin Wall and all that. Mm-hmm. Reagan was in charge, yada yada yada. So it's just like, what are we doing? Because not even the nuclear technology alone to be afraid of. There's also all the chemical agents we developed during the Cold War. All of those we still have in declassified bunkers that are not marked on any maps. Stuff as like nerve gas, sarin gas, anthrax, all kinds of shit like this. We still have in thousands of containers all around the U.S. in these undisclosed sites that at any moment, if someone walks in, or there's a bomb that goes off, or the U.S. decides we need it again, we have the materials to start war. We don't even need nuclear, technology.
It's so easy.
I remember the Hawaii scare a while back. 2018, I think it was, where it was the mispress of the button.
About the
the fake.
It wasn't like, weren't they like hijack like the what's it called, the news station or something was hijacked and they were playing the old nuclear response systems or whatever.
And everyone got messages on their phones and stuff. It was pure panic.
Yeah, it was just ridiculous, and I don't get the mindset of people like that. Like, I get the joke of like making people afraid for a second, but this is people's lives. We hear today, like whenever the coronavirus first broke out, we were hearing stories about people committing suicide because they found out they had the virus. So like, any world-ending event brings out the worst in people, and it sucks. It sucks that we are so easily driven by fear. It sucks that we are so stupid that we don't take the necessary precautions in what we take care of and the technology that we're developing, that it leads to events like this. It leads to broken arrow cases. It leads to fear-based, solutions. Mm-hmm. It leads to irrational thinking that drives, us to a point that at any second the world could end. And for 50 years we were like that during the Cold War, that at any moment we could all be dead.
Yeah.
That's such a horrifying thought.
It is. It's horrible to think about. It's horrible to realize how ignorant we can be.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I do get the argument of a necessary evil. I do get the argument of at all costs. In certain situations, I can justify it. I can. I don't think it's good. Me as a moral person, I don't think it's good. But at the same time, we don't always get, good decisions to choose from.
It's not black and white, unfortunately.
Yeah, because again, like I said, when Roosevelt learned that the Germans they had a head start on building nuclear devices, it really became a question of, are we going to wait for them to have this bomb to kill us? Or would we rather have this bomb and make sure no one else does? So, like, I get it. There is no good option. Mm-hmm. But you got to make a choice, or the world's going to make a choice for you.
Yeah. Honestly, the best thing to come out of the Cold War was the space race.
I mean, yes, yeah. But at the same time,
why? Yeah, like I feel like I honestly, I think, let's be fully honest, I would have preferred that we made these discoveries at in a more peaceful manner.
Of course, but it's never going to happen.
Yeah, every discovery seems to be made at time. Well, not every, but a good amount of them. The big ones seem to be made during times of high stress.
Of course.
We figure something out because we're desperate, because we really need something.
There is no stronger motivator than the fear of death.
Mm-hmm. Mm. All this fantastic, incredible technology comes from military bases.
Mm-hmm. Most of our technology, even today, came originally from military development.
Yeah. Even
Velcro came from Velcro came from NASA, but at the time it was developed when NASA was still working a lot with the military. Yeah. It's same thing with memory foam. Same thing with fiber optic cables and stuff like that. Yeah, it is sad. But the reality is I don't think we're ever going to escape it. It's part of the reason I have Stoic philosophy is that bad shit happens. Bad shit will always happen. It comes in waves. You have to learn to write it out. There is no ideal utopia. There is no peaceful future where nothing, bad ever happens. I believe that's idiotic. I believe that's childish because there's still stuff like natural disasters that happen. You don't control that. You don't get to dictate that.
Yeah.
So learning how to deal with stress, learning how to deal with these bad events, I believe is the key to having a more peaceful future. But I don't think we're ever going to completely escape the fear-based mentality that has driven society and life, to this point.
I mean, I get that. I'm a very cautious and scared person. Hell, I'm even still fucking terrified of bugs. It's been 8 years and those things still scare me.
I wouldn't doubt it. But, like I said, honestly, there's been so much that I could cover. There's 31 other cases that are publicly known. And there's other cases such as the bent spear, dull sword, and the empty quiver cases that are worth looking into as well. So many things that have happened. And there was one more case that I wish Nathan was here for that isn't a U.S. case. It is a Russian case. And is the part of the reason I didn't want to do too much research into it is because it is still an ongoing event.
Ooh.
Okay? But yes. In 2017, Russia actually lost one of its nuclear missiles near the sea up in Siberia.
How do you just... I still don't get how you just lose a fucking nuclear weapon. I don't know how you say it.
What happened was, I believe what happened was the technology that was built around these ICBMs were made so that way that they can deploy off the ground within less than 5 seconds. However, the trade-off for that meant that the fuel burnt so fast that they were short-ranged. The control systems or the guidance systems either were broken or fell out of disarray, and it went off course and fell into the ocean. But because of how fast it went there, obviously we couldn't just shoot it down or anything. So it fell into the ocean, and Russia for the past 3 years has still been trying to find it. With the U.S., of course, there's no confirmed reports, but you can guarantee, you can bet your sweet ass the U.S. is trying to find it itself.
Definitely.
Themselves, So, yeah, it's something we're not talking about, but it's something that's very important because if we do get our hands on it before Russia does, that's going to spark a lot of problems.
Many problems.
It always will.
Unless we catch it and nobody knows, and I guess we never found it.
Trust me, once we depart from that part of the sea, Russia's going to know.
Yeah, I'm scared of the future.
It's ridiculous. I'm scared of the future too, but you know what? I'm still optimistic. There's still a lot of good things to look for in the future.
Yep.
We're here in Houston, they're starting actually vaccine trials for the COVID-19.
Oh, hell yeah!
Because they're starting human trials here. So they're looking for a bunch of volunteers for the next year or two. Reason being is because of our big and diverse, gene pool that we have here in Houston and different ethnicities and backgrounds makes it very ideal for us to test here versus most other states or cities. There's all kinds of future technologies, which I would love to cover. Like I said, nuclear fusion, there's solid state batteries. There's all the developments we're making with graphene and on and on and on.
VR as well, most definitely. It's my area of expertise.
VR, yeah, especially. I learned recently, we're going to wrap up here soon, but I learned recently that there is actually a haptic suit that was designed recently so that way you can hear through your skin, not through your ears, with this haptic suit.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, right? The dude who is pioneering the technology, he uses it for a concert, and they they even had a bunch of deaf people, completely deaf people, wear these haptic suits and have a great time.
I love that. That's quite wholesome, actually.
Yeah, right. Of course they were testing, but at the same time, it's these are the things that I would love to cover in the future in an episode. It is a bunch of advancing technologies and the possibilities, because I don't always like to have such scary or dark episodes. I like to have a little, lighthearted speculation.
A little bit of fun.
Yeah, a little bit. It's not always doom and gloom around here. But at the same time, it's just the potential and the possibilities for these technologies is insane. And where they could go is crazy. But like I said earlier, all technology is a double-edged sword. It can be used for good. It can be used for bad. It all depends on the people involved, So, because one thought that came to my mind was, the use of haptic feedback technology and VR for military application. how they would train soldiers and stuff like that. That is a very real possibility. And I believe to some extent they're even exploring that right now. But at the same time, we could also use the same technology like we're using currently to, guide and operate, these drones or robots that we use on the space shuttle. There's a very famous robot whose name slips my mind that we use, on space missions to do repairs outside, and they're controlled by scientists and engineers here at NASA.
That's kind of cool.
So, yeah, it's really cool. I actually got to see the robot myself on a field trip once in like my senior year. So he's got an orange head, and the rest of him is white and all that. So,
well, think of his BB-8.
No, he looks like a humanoid. There was actually two of them because I believe the first one broke at some point. I can't remember, but yeah. But like I said, there's a lot of good and a lot of bad that can come out. I know I'm reiterating a lot, but we're at the end anyways. We're tired. This was a lot of research to go through. So audience, if you stuck it out this far, thank you. I appreciate it. I really do, because I do put a lot of time into my notes here. I really do try to find, cases that would be fun and exciting and keeps changing, because I don't want to go week after week covering the same type of, content.
Of course.
It gets boring. It gets boring for me.
It's nice that we're like mixing it up a little.
Yeah, I figured this would be fun. This is a nice little departure from the weird and unexplained. This is like some true Cold War conspiracy shit.
Yeah.
And, that's something I personally really love looking into. Because, again, there are the more out there, cases such as like Project Stargate, MK Ultra, and stuff like that. The Montauk Project, stuff like that. It makes you ask yourself, what's going on? How far into the weird did we get, with the U.S. government and shit? But, there's more than, like U-2 spy planes and stuff like that, or fascinating things to cover. The U-2 spy plane that fell down in Russia. There was the cases of people who defected, bringing over, enemy aircrafts to study. All kinds of crazy war stories, too, that I found in Korea and Vietnam. There's a story I found about an American pilot who shot down 5 Russian fighter jets during Vietnam, and we couldn't tell the public.
Really?
We couldn't.
That's cool.
Here's the reason. Russia was not officially involved in Vietnam, and to have any direct conflict with these planes at the time would have definitely sparked off World War III.
Absolutely.
Ooh,
so we couldn't give him credit. He was credited with shooting down 1 jet, not 5, and they said that the pilot survived.
I want to know what the reaction from Russia was whenever
Russia agreed. They agreed to keep it quiet.
Oh,
yeah,
interesting.
Yeah,
for public's sake.
Yeah, because they did not want to spark a war. How the hell are they going to be quiet about 5 other people dying if they're not going to agree with us? Just think about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can't be saying, "Oh, we only shot 1 of our guys," while they have 5 burial ceremonies to go through. I forget what the fuck you call that. Funerals. I forgot the word funerals.
Yeah.
Are you functioning today?
Halfway.
Yeah, I get that.
But it's like there's so many Cold War stories that are definitely worth their own subjects to look into. But those are all stories for another time. But as always, we keep our topics, once a week. We like to change it up. Next week, I have a couple interesting ideas that I think would be fun. I'm not sure which one I want to do next, but they're all delving specifically straight into supernatural. We have yet to do a very proper supernatural ghost-related story. We've dabbled in it, but we've never properly done a story. We've talked about it. We've brushed up to it. But I wanted to find one that was like really like holy shit kind of deal.
Yeah.
So I looked into one story, which I don't want to name, which case it is, but it definitely deals with possession.
Sweet.
Yeah.
My favorite.
And if memory serves me right, it actually happened in England. So
even better.
Hell yeah, something that's interesting where I live.
Right? It's not the Enfield Poltergeist either.
Oh,
yeah, in case
nice.
anybody's thinking that's what it is. Yeah, Enfield's too popular for me to want to cover.
known.
You know.
Makes
Yeah.
sense.
So I wanted to dig into something a bit different. But like I said, I'm not making promises about what we're covering next, but it's definitely going to be something supernatural.
Do you want to apologize to the audience for my mic because I am not using my nice mic because we're still trying to figure out what we're going to use to record these.
Yeah, we're still kind of going back and forth on some things right now. I know a lot of that is because I'm personally going through a lot of stuff right now with me trying to move, me trying to figure out what I'm going to do for work, you know, and a lot of other things that we're trying to manage for the podcast outside of just recording episodes that I'm trying to take care of. So a lot of things are a little in flux right now. I do apologize about the audio, but hopefully within the next month, we'll definitely have a solid plan moving forward. Everything will be better. You know, because I'm planning to get my own laptop and recording station by then too. But, you know, as always, you know, you can stay up to date with everything that we cover on our Twitter page, on our Instagram page, or our Facebook page. And if you're interested, we do now also have a Discord group that you guys can join in and interact with all of us, you know.
All of you.
CC and I are definitely on there for sure. What's up?
That's the lie. I'm the only one active in this.
Excuse me, because I've been inviting people as of the last week. I've got like 3 more people who are joining. So
I'm still salty that I'm basically the
I'm
only
only
one
not
doing
active
most stuff.
because I'm okay. But again, at the same time, I'm also trying to get a month ahead.
Yeah.
But it's whatever. You know, because I am trying to be more active on there myself.
I really have. I don't use Discord that often, but I should.
You really should, because it's a very easy way to get, you know, to know the group that we are in. It's very good to get to talk to our audience and you know, let them know what we're about. Let them, you know what's up.
Of course.
You know, with certain episodes, and really provide a place to talk about these things, because there may be some things I don't know that maybe somebody had a personal family history tied to something, and you know, it's worth looking into.
Yeah.
You know, and it'd be a lot easier to hear what you guys want to listen to. It's going to be a lot easier to find stories that you guys want to hear more about. You know, so that would probably be the best place to talk to us about that. But, you know, with everything else that we're planning, you know, we've got a lot going on, and we got a lot of great content ready to go that we're discussing. So we hope to see you guys next week, and we can't wait to see what you guys bring to the table. Because I know you, Vlad, and Cece are both wanting to cover certain topics down the road. It's not going to be next week. I'm not going to make that promise to you guys, but what you guys told me you want to look into, I cannot wait to hear about. It's going to be awesome.
I'm really hyped for it.
No, I know.
Me too.
So, but you guys have a good day. We're going to go ahead and go.
Awesome.
All right.
Bye.
All right. Bye-bye.
All right. Later.